Hello everyone, BNatural here, and it's time for another BNS NEO video. The Moonwater patch hit a few days ago, and I've had a ton of people ask me about updates to my previous build, as well as if there are any other alternative ones that you can play. So today, I'm gonna go over the 3 build options available to Forcemasters this patch: Blazing Beam, Dragonchar, and Ice Rain. All 3 are viable, and we'll be covering the requirements, skills, and gameplay of each build. I'll put a link to every build, as well as a minimum requirements version down in the description. Of the 3 builds, Blazing Beam requires the least amount of investment, Dragonchar slightly more, and the Ice Rain build requires a significant amount of blue books and badges to get started. First, let's start with the build I'm currently using, Blazing Beam. If you're coming from my previous guide, I've made some minor changes, but the playstyle is largely the same. For the core skills, we take Blazing Palm or Inferno Blow, Blazing Beam, Fiendfire, Impact Burn, Dual Dragons, and Frost Palm. Both Blazing Palm and Inferno Blow are viable options. Inferno Blow does more DPS, but Blazing Palm generates more focus. Fiendfire is the hard-hitting nuke whose instant cast is enabled by Impact Burn. The blue version allows an additional second cast, doubling its DPS output. Shockfire can be taken in lieu of Impact Burn if you prefer the increased range, but it does add a 9-second cooldown, so keep that in mind. While Wicked Twin Dragons is technically more DPS, I found that the added cast time makes it difficult to use in some scenarios, and much prefer the instacast and focus regeneration of Dual Dragons. Frost Palm is primarily used to enter Frost Stance, and later on at blue tier, becomes a free 0-cost skill to use in between Blazing Beams with your left. Focus generation skills include Meteor Shower, Cold Snap, and Balefire. Meteor Shower and Cold Snap behave very similarly. They're both AoEs that you cast on a target that continue to attack that area for 5 hits, and at blue tier, generate 1 focus per hit. Balefire instantly applies burn to the target and grants you focus regen over time. The blue tier increases this effect to 2 focus per second for 10 seconds. For utility skills, we take Divine Veil, Frost Sheath, Skyburn, Phantom Grip, and Firestorm. Divine Veil places a bubble on the ground that can protect your entire party from projectiles. Frost Sheath is a party-wide 3-second buff that grants everyone immunity if attacked during the buff. Skyburn is our main knockdown skill and is used for joint CCs. It has to be placed on the ground first, then used again for the knockdown. Phantom Grip doubles the reach of our grab, allowing us to pull mobs from further away, and also reduces the cooldown of the skill. Firestorm adds a parry to our fire tab that can block and interrupt enemy attacks for 1 second. I mostly use this skill for Junghado, and highly recommend it if you don't want to swap skills back and forth for Mushin's Tower. Now, while the utility skills are mostly optional, please at least take Skyburn so you can participate in joint CCs and dungeons. Don't be that guy. Also, all extra remaining skill book slots should be filled with Blazing Beam books to increase the Grandmaster level of the skill, which increases its damage per point. Green books will grant you 1, blues 2, purples 6, and yellows 18. For blue book upgrades, I highly suggest getting Balefire first, as it's fairly inexpensive and grants a large amount of focus recovery for your build. Next, take Blazing Beam for DPS or Frost Palm for quality of life, but make sure that you get all 3 of the previously mentioned books. Then go for Fiendfire, followed by Cold Snap and Massive Snowball, then Meteor Shower. Naturally, since the build is based around it, the Blazing Beam Soul Badge is the best choice for us. For Mystic Badges, we can take either the Dual Dragons or Meteor Shower Badge. Technically speaking, the Meteor Shower badge is more DPS, but since bosses tend to move around a lot and I usually end up tanking, I much prefer the Dual Dragons one. If you do decide to take the Meteor badge, make sure you take the Light 'em Up book, which swaps with your Phantom Grip and combos into multiple blaze for the badge effect. The playstyle for Blazing Beam is fairly straightforward. Your go-to combo is left click, right click, and 2. Use your Fire C, V, and Ice Z on cooldown, and press F whenever it pops up. If you don't have blue Frost Palm and your focus is below half, feel free to omit right click in your rotation until you get more focus. As you get more comfortable with the rotation, try and get used to the rhythm of your left click right click too, instead of just spamming the buttons, and consider staggering your Fire C, V, and Ice Z to allow for a more smooth generation of focus over time. Also, make sure to use Impact to maintain both burn and to proc the instant cast of Fiend Fire. The Dragonchar build actually only requires a couple changes to the Blazing Beam build to get started. Swap Infernal Blow to Blazing Palm and Blazing Beam to Dragonchar. The minimum requirements for this build are slightly higher because you need at least the blue Dragonchar book for the boost effect and a lot of focus regen to keep up with the consumption. Additionally, you can optionally swap your Divine Veil to the Deadlock variant, which turns it into a 45-second cooldown focus generation skill. For badges, you'll take the Dragonchar Soul Badge and the Dual Dragons Mystic Badge. The playstyle at its core is very similar to Blazing Beam. You dump focus with your 2 and use your Fire C, V, and Frost Z to generate focus. Unlike Blazing Beam, however, you'll mainly be spamming your left click with your 2, and your right click will mostly be used to swap stances or gain Frost Orbit. You may be able to left click, right click between your 2 spam if you get the blue tier Blazing Palm and Frost Palm due to the increased attack speed, but I don't have these books, so I haven't been able to personally test this yet. Compared to the Blazing Beam build, the Dragonchar build has the potential to scale higher at very high investment levels, mainly at purple or higher. The faster cast speed and reduced global cooldown at maximum boost means you can cast Dragonchar much faster than Blazing Beam, and you'll use less focus. Of course, there are some caveats. Although it does have more potential, with a mixture of green and blue skill books, it generally performs very similarly, if not slightly worse than Blazing Beam. The AoE nature of the skill means you'll always have to aim your screen at your target, making it annoying to kite enemies in circles with it if you end up tanking in your groups. In addition, it's very APM heavy. You cannot just hold Dragonchar and will need to be constantly pressing your 2 at a much faster rate than you would with Blazing Beam. Finally, the build is pretty finicky with animation speed and your ping. Depending on what tier skill books you have for Dragonchar, Blazing Palm, and Frost Palm, what you can do between each Dragonchar will change. Ping can also affect the build's efficacy, with high ping making it sometimes take 2 extra casts before the server realizes that your Dragonchar should be fully boosted. Still, played well and with good investment, the Dragonchar build will absolutely blast enemies and is a really fun build to play. Finally, we have the Ice Rain build. This is the Lamborghini of FM builds, and the barrier to entry reflects it, with the minimum requirements being blue tier Ice Rain, Frost Palm, Massive Snowball, Cold Snap, Meteor Shower, Force Blast, and Balefire skill books, as well as a Moonwater Mystic Badge for Cold Snap. Of course, that's just the bare bones, and you'd really want to have at least a Moonwater Ice Rain Soul Badge, as well as some extra Ice Rain books to boost the Grandmaster skill level, since the base damage of Ice Rain isn't high and the majority of your damage does come from this skill. Similarly to Dragonchar, Ice Rain stacks focus regen, then blasts enemies non-stop. Unlike Dragonchar, you cannot just spam your skills off cooldown. Ice Rain is boosted, and it has its cost reduced for 8 seconds after you use Cold Snap, and Cold Snap's cooldown is greatly reduced by Massive Snowball, and your Mystic Badge as well. Finally, Force Blast reduces the cooldown of your Massive Snowball by 5 seconds. Because of this, you'll generally want to start your burst with Frost Z, then hold 2 for 8 seconds. Do not weave any other ability since you gain extra cost reduction on consecutive uses of the skill while boosted. After the boost ends, use your Frost X to reduce the cooldown of your Z, then 1 to reduce the cooldown of your X, and use a combination of your focus generation skills and left click, right click 2 until your Z comes back up for another burst rotation. The damage potential of this build is insane, and it scales exponentially as you invest more and more into it. For example, Purple Massive Snowball reduces the cooldown of your Cold Snap by 12 seconds, which, when combined with the Virtuous Mystic Badge's 18, will instantly refresh the cooldown of your Z. In addition, if you ever happen upon a legendary quality of Ice Rain, that skill is always boosted and has the cost reduced, so you can effectively just hold 2 if you have high enough crit chance. So what's the best build? All 3 have their places in the game, and of course, you can clear all of the content by playing any of the builds. That being said, assuming money isn't an issue, at the highest tier, Ice Rain is by far the strongest build. At the middle high tier, with a few purple books here and there, Dragonchar and Ice Rain should both perform somewhat similarly, and at the middle to low tier, Blazing Beam will likely perform the best with minimal investment. Personally speaking, I'll probably continue to use Blazing Beam unless I happen upon a purple Dragonchar, at which point I might consider swapping. The most important thing is to play a build that you vibe with and that you're comfortable playing, because that'll outweigh any of the advantages that the other builds have over each other. If you found this guide helpful, please consider subscribing so you can see more of my content, and let me know down in the comments what build you're playing, if there's anything I've missed, or if you figured something out. Thank you for watching, I hope you learned something, and happy blasting.